You're watching the Tesla Live with your host, Mark Coughlin.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tesla Live number 317 on the 26th of July, 2023. Welcome, everybody, and welcome back, Patrick, who's gone for a week and is back.
Yeah.
And thanks so much being back. And let's get right to it. With us, as always, Mr. Casey Green joins us from I guess that would be the middle part of America on the Atlantic coast, wouldn't it? So
yeah, the Mid-Atlantic, southern Atlantic,
mid-southern Atlantic, yes,
still in the hurricane zone.
Oh no!
Yeah.
So, well, we got a tornado apparently brewing in our neck of the woods tonight, so that should be rolling through at about halfway through the show. So we'll see if it happens live.
Good luck. Yeah. So this weekend I had our first members only chat on my channel. And
cool.
That was I didn't have any expectations, but it went better than I could have hoped. And and then this morning I got a bill from my utility company. I was expecting it to be negative as usual because I've got solar and all that, right? But I owe them a little bit of money, and I was looking in the bill to see why, and we had 25 days over 90 FRID. Yeah,
it's gonna run the AC a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Who's got a cat loose?
Right?
Someone in the chat. I don't know.
There's a cat loose somewhere. Meow.
Not one of them.
I don't own a cat, so it's not me.
That's even more scary.
Unless one snuck in here.
Getting away from that hurricane, tornado, whatever it was.
Also, the tornado blew it in. Also with us, we have Mr. Patrick Connor joining us from the West Coast. How are you today, sir?
Hello. Great. I spent last week on the Oregon coast and driving up and down the coast. So Casey's got hurricanes, you've got tornadoes. I was going in and out of tsunami zones. As you're driving the 101, entering tsunami zone, now leaving tsunami zone, entering tsunami zone, just over and over and again as you're driving it. It was really cool. I watched last week's show. You guys had Brian on here. That was really neat.
Yeah.
I thought he did a great job. You guys all worked well together and covered the numbers. The only thing that I had to disagree with Brian about is when he said that our chat room wasn't very lively. I'm like, come on, we've got Anders and Hockey Day in June. I love our chat room, folks. It's great. So that's the only thing he got wrong there.
Don't forget Derek. He's there today.
Yeah, I'm correcting you live, Brian. There were three things that out of the, and we'll cover all of them today in various articles from last week's show. The Q3 production is going to be down. That was a little disappointing because I think that means they're not going to make it to 2 million this year. But we'll see. And since we all have bets on what the annual production will be, dipping below that 2 million is too bad. But they got to do what they got to do.
Will officially be over 2 million now between all the plants after they finish all their annual maintenances.
Yeah, the run rate certainly. I think yeah. So that'll be nice to see. So in the long run, it doesn't matter. These, if you miss by 10 or 20% now on these things, and it was never Tesla's guidance. They've been guiding for 1.8 million, and he'll still hit that, I'm sure. So it was just, I wanted 2 million. That's a nice round, fun number. Get some good headlines out of that, but they won't make it. Oh well.
The drop in the profit per car. Drawing a blank on my terms all of a sudden.
Margin.
That will allow them to keep the rate up. I see all these, windbags talking about, that means they're doing terribly. The blah blah blah.
Oh. Yeah,
if they sell, they've obviously done the calculus. Hey, if we sell 100 cars at 30% profit, and we sell 1,000 cars at 15% profit.
Yeah, and their margin on EVs is certainly better than any other automakers. So
A lot
I'm
of them are
not
negative.
concerned about that. Exactly. Yes. Hey, look, they're positive. Awesome. Yes. We lose
Yeah.
money on every car, but we'll make it up in volume is not a good strategy.
That does not work.
If we can just get to level 4, we get our volume discount.
Yeah, so the second thing that I thought was cool was licensing FSD. We'll talk about that later in the show. That was, as an investor, I was happy to hear that. And then the last one was the FSD transfer. And as an owner, I was excited to see that. So yeah, we'll cover all those in the show today.
Yeah. So there was a lot to talk about during the earnings call. A lot of it was surprising, and we'll get to that right now. First of all, we're going to start off with some Cybertruck news. Tesla actually published some information about the Cybertruck. We of course are waiting to hear a price, and we'd love to hear a date for the event,
handover event,
to hand over to the first customers. That was not given, but Tesla did come back with some information about the size of the truck. They indicated that this will be a sub 19-foot truck. So it will fit in a 19-foot garage is what they were trying to point at. And that this will be the first 4-door plus a 6-foot plus bed, which of course we know that bed sizes are all over the board depending on the manufacturer, because you put in 4 doors and a lot of them shrink the bed to maybe 5.5 feet or 5 feet or less.
Yeah.
So, it definitely limits what you can do for hauling drywall or things around. You have to be prepared for that type of thing. What you're buying the truck for what business, what you're moving, you have to keep in mind the bed size. But
also, that the bed is flush on the inside. A lot of vehicles will have a decent sized bed, but you can't
might have a wheel well problem.
Exactly.
Yeah. And, some of them come with a little bit of a tailgate flip up or something that holds it in place. Those are things you have to keep in mind. But Tesla says over 6 feet for the bed size for this vehicle. So that's a plus. Another thing of interest is they talked a little bit about the 4680 battery that will be used in the Cybertruck, and that this will be a special cyber battery for the truck. It's going to have a little bit more oomph in the battery, about 10%, which is a change. But we knew that this may be possible because, of course, Tesla is going with the 4680 for the Cybertruck because the number of batteries they're going to need for this truck to get a certain distance. And, of course, the more that they can work their battery magic in this vehicle to get it a longer range, the cheaper it is for this truck to go into production, and the cost will be down ultimately for the consumer. So it's certainly within their interest, all their interests, to get that battery as dense as it possibly can be. And it's good to see that they've made some advancements with that 4680, as well as we've heard other things about the manufacturing speed and about the amount of loss that they have on any given production line that has to be reconstituted and remade again. So all positives we've heard from the earnings call. And certainly the estimated 1.9 million Cybertruck reservation holders out there are just chomping at the bit. They want to see this truck released. We are now into the third quarter officially. And initially, Tesla had said about a delivery event sometime in the third quarter would be likely. Elon hedged the bet a little bit on the Cybertruck release date during the earnings call by saying it will be delivered this year. So is it going to push a little bit beyond, or is that them just playing, just playing safety with the time? They say it's going to be this time this year. Could slip to October or November. It wouldn't matter because they're within that timeline. Or will they actually come in sometime in September, where we had guessed it would be? Because when Tesla gives us a date, It's typically always at the end of that time period, right?
Yeah. Well, they're already on Elon time. As long as the thing gets here by Christmas and they have their end of the year party, it'll be fine. The reason I
I'm
say
hoping.
that is don't rush it. Like if you need the extra
Mhm.
3 months to get it done, just take the extra 3 months.
Also known as 2 weeks. It just takes 3 months to do 2 weeks. That's
Well,
funny.
Elon can't read a timepiece to save his life. So
Right. And
it's
so
fine.
maybe saying by the end of the year is he's actually learning, okay, I want it in Q3, but I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say by the end of the year and still drive the team to the end of Q3. So maybe he's actually learning. Maybe. I hope.
Can
you imagine?
Hey, if you don't get it done by September 1st, you're fired.
Can you imagine him now having 2 dates in his head? One for the production team and one for us on the outside? Like,
No, he'll still slip up and give the wrong one out to each side.
There are constraints says you're supposed to do that, though. Yeah, you have internal
they
drive
called it
dates.
the cyber cell, and I think it would be awesome if they could make it like angular, but too much cost.
Forget about that round, the conical.
I guess hexagon up in there.
We
exactly.
scrapped the round idea. We went with the hexagon.
Right, no more cylinders. We
know it costs double, but it just fit in so nicely with the truck.
Yes.
Yeah, hexagons.
Triangular batteries.
Yes.
the computer that used the triangular floppy disks.
Exactly. Well, let's move on to the next subject. And of course, this was a surprise to all of us. I didn't think that Elon would touch this with a 10-foot pole, but we got the notification that there is going to be a transfer of FSD. Get this for free if it happens within the third quarter of this year. So the clock is ticking now. What did you guys think about that?
Well, when Elon announced it, it was awesome. And then when Tesla implemented it, I was like, oh, they strike again.
Yeah, there's a lot of compromises.
And then they won't do it the way that he made us think it was going to be. And, Patrick and I went through and read the transfer agreement. And then aside from there's a part that we're going to talk about in a minute, there was an article in there that said that basically on your new car that you transferred FSD to, it was a favor to you. So when your car transferred hands again, even if it didn't go through Tesla, if you gave it to your aunt and she updated the title, gone. FSD was just as if you traded it into Tesla. And there were a bunch of articles this morning or yesterday morning that said that they'd fixed that. However, there was a guy who was ordering a car. I don't know if he's in Canada or in the northern U.S. His rep told him that regardless of what the paperwork says, that it was still being treated as a favor on his new car. We haven't got anybody else verifying that. And then it was really weird that if that was the case, that they had people like Chris, Dirty Tesla, re-sign their agreement to remove that section if that was their intent. So
right, but one of the first section also says that they can change the agreement at any time in the future at their whim. So yeah, I did not like that part of it, because if you bought FSD right now, it's attached to your car. If you sell that car in a private transaction, that feature stays with the car. Right. The only time that could get scrubbed is if you trade it into Tesla, and then they can do whatever behind the scenes with it to resell it in any format they want. But this new one, it's almost like what they're doing is on the new vehicle. It's almost like you're doing the monthly lease, except at zero cost. And then that's just, and then if you sell the car, of course that wouldn't go with it. So it's kind of like they're doing that at a $0.
Right, same as the unlimited supercharging on the newer car. So not my original car, but the one I've got. If that ownership changes, it goes away. But I knew that up front, and I'm not trading in one that has it to one that doesn't. Like if I were to take them up on their offer for the unlimited supercharging for 6 years, it would keep the same terms of the current agreement, but it would have a time limit on it instead of going away when I trade. Well, I mean, it would still go away when I trade the car, but I would know what's happening to it. It wouldn't suddenly change to this whole other thing.
So are you guys saying that this deal is in flux? That
it's definitely
it is because we're hearing some people saying that it's going to change, and we're hearing other people saying, "Hey, this is what the agreement says. If you sign on to it, that's what you're going to get." So,
and so on Sunday, I was chatting on my show with the Tesla rep before they did the first change, and there was a section of our chat where they thought I said, "All right, what if I trade in my P100D on a Plaid?" So it went exactly as we thought. You lose FSD on the third on the third car. They get to sell it 5 times basically. They sell it on the original car. They sell it on the traded car, or not traded, but the next car. And then when I get rid of the new car that transferred it to it, they get to sell it again, and then they sell it to me on the last car. And I was like, that's good for them, but man, that's a dick move. And so then I said, well, what if I forget the transfer, I want to do the 6 years of supercharging. And the rep said, you can't do that, you can't combine them, and you're on your new car, even if you don't do it, you're gonna have to, FSD is gonna be temporary. I was like, what? When did the policy change? And then they stepped back for a second, and they realized that they had missed where I said drop that and let's do another scenario. I was like, oh, because if they did a new policy change, one, that would be fair because that would be 2 policy, but 2, when the hell did this change? And so then the rep understood that they missed a sentence in there, and they fixed it.
Okay.
But as I said, Patrick and I read the agreement through, and I interpreted the part about your new car about your car having to have come with FSD. I interpreted that as the old car had to have FSD on the sticker, like my current one. I was like, well, glad I didn't buy it after the fact with my tax money like I'd planned to do. And but Pat said that he read it a couple more times, and they were only saying that it had to be on the new car when you buy it, but they shouldn't even have to say that because you're transferring it.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're obviously buying a car that you want to transfer it to. So that part is
awkwardly
worded. It's awkwardly worded, so it does not matter how you acquired it on the old vehicle, whether you bought it later date through the app or if you ordered it with FSD.
As long as they didn't give it to you for having bad service or any other sort of like compensatory, where it's temporary.
As long as it was a compensation.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah. If they gave it to you for free, lucky you. I guess they must have really hosed you somehow. If they're good.
Must have been some really bad service.
Yeah. There was one phrase in there that I did not like, and it said that if you terminate it on your old vehicle, that's part of what has to be done to transfer it to this new vehicle. If you then cancel the new vehicle for any reason, that they will not restore it on your original vehicle. Yeah, which wait a minute. So if there's the only reason I would not accept it is if it came in and it was an absolute lemon. There was like major problems.
It's missing 3 wheels.
Yeah, exactly.
3 different color interiors.
Yeah, and so if it's their fault that I don't accept this delivery, I would hope that they would somehow make you whole and not just go, oh, your FSD disappeared. You can buy it again if you want.
Well, that's what the paper says.
Yes, the paperwork was definitely written by a lawyer. It gives them all the cards, and it doesn't have any of the reasonable expectations that I hope that they would take. So, but that's the contract. So if you sign it and they go that way, you really don't have a leg to stand on legally, only on their goodwill. And that's not a position I like to be in, where you're at their mercy.
And you won't even know what's coming because they also, in the agreement, they reserve the right to transfer your FSD up to a week before the car lands. So you're like, all right, it's a week out.
Right. But, so you could lose it on your old car a week before you even see the new one. And then you may or may not want to accept delivery of that new one, depending on its condition.
Right. You would be thinking more than twice.
I had that happen to a Civic Hybrid. It fell off the boat.
You'd be definitely thinking more than twice to refuse that car if that clause was in effect.
True. Yeah. But I mean, if it's a major defect, then So I don't know. I'm probably going to do it anyway. All these concerns I have about it. The reason anytime before you sign a contract, you have to go through and pick out all these details and see what the worst case scenario is. and then do the risk assessment and decide to jump or not. I don't like the fact that it doesn't stay with the vehicle, where the one I have now does. So that's a downgrade. I don't like the risk that I'm taking.
According to the changes, it implies that it does.
Right. So I don't know whether that clause will be in there when I don't know what the version of the contract will be. So
you got to read it first.
Yeah, exactly. Because this was announced on an earnings call. Who listens to earnings calls? That's not how things are normally rolled out. It should go out to all the customers in some Tesla newsletter or
Tesla. They still want to screw it up.
Or and so instead it's people sharing the terms that they're getting when they're signing up for it, and so
that
it's going through social
website,
media.
like in the fact,
yeah, exactly.
Page.
Yes, there should be something official from Tesla describing this instead of just how we're getting all this secondhand information.
Yeah.
So when you ideally, Patrick, when you plan on pulling the trigger, like are you talking a couple weeks, or you?
I can't wait.
We have like that's because you have to receive it, right?
Yeah, right. and I don't want to be caught up in the end of the quarter rush, so I would do it sooner rather than later, like maybe after the show's over. So
that way you don't end up with as big of a chance of getting a lemon.
Yeah, and now so we have right now a 3 and an X. The X has AP1, so it doesn't have FSD, but the 3 does have FSD. But I want to keep the 3 and trade in the X because the X is older. You can do that. Yeah, that was a tricky thing. They don't care what you're trading in or not trading in. They're two totally different things.
You know what?
FSD transfer. Go ahead.
If they didn't have that clause about not combining offers, you could give up FSD off of the 3 and unlimited supercharging off of the X, trade the X, and then get it on the new X.
So
also don't qualify for the 3 years they're giving by default on the S or X.
Yeah, we're probably going to get a Y. So I wouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah. So the part about supercharging, I'm just going to lose that. Yeah, it's so I'm so spoiled. I know I'm pampered princess. I really like the X. The cooled seats are nice. The just getting in and you step on the brake and the door closes for you is nice. And I'm sure I'll learn to reach over and close the door myself. But geez, every time I get into my wife's car, I step on the brake and I go, "Why is the door shut?" Oh yeah, I have to do it myself.
you get it twice. Boop, boop. Oh shoot.
Yes, exactly. Come on. Oh yeah.
and twice is like a built-in thing because on the X sometimes it just chooses not to close the door the first time, so you hit it again and then it closes.
Yes.
Unless the wind caught it and you could see that.
Right.
It never takes more than 2 pushes.
Right. So I have that habit, and I'll learn, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's the same thing. Like when you're used to, let's say, not shutting off a car, you just get out, and then the Chevy Spark we have now, I do that, and it honks at me 3 times, beep beep beep, to say, "Hey, you left me running." I'm like, well, if you know you need to be shut off, just do it. Instead of honking at me, just do it. You figured it all out.
No, has you talking to the Spark got it to change its attitude yet?
Yeah, I guess I'm talking to the software developer who worked on it. But
I think you could probably talk to it for quite a long time and nothing's going to happen. But you do you, Patrick. That's okay.
Their AI is not smart enough to comprehend me yet.
If I were like suddenly come into the finances to be able to do something in the allotted period, I would probably just take them up on 6 years of supercharging deal or something like that, rather than risk the FSD transfer deal. Personally, but for you, that's a great deal, and it would make sense. I just got so spooked by reading that.
She's harassing me in the chat, and I totally deserve that.
Model 3 peasants.
Oh man!
On screen
Well, another piece of that FSD story is, of course, Tesla had announced, and this is great for shareholders, possibly, is that Tesla's in some conversation with another major automaker about selling FSD to them to use in their vehicles. Mm-hmm. So, of course, it was not named as what that automaker would be, and these are preliminary talks. It could be just verbal. It could be a phone call. Who knows what it is? But the internet is speculating all over the board. And I think one of the good guesses out there would be Ford, because Ford's got this relationship already with Tesla. They believe that the technology for the supercharger was best for them to sign on with.
And they fired their AI team, that other group.
Argo, right?
Argo, and they closed the company, yeah.
That's right. So, they're going to have a need for it.
They have Blue Cruise now, but Farley just said on, I think it was their earnings call, or maybe it was some interview with him I was watching, where he said the current version of Blue Cruise, it's hard to say that, will not ever go to full autonomy. So that is a level 2 only driver assist with no roadmap to 4 or 5. So I agree with you, Mark. I think that's a very good guess and likely who they're in discussions with.
Possibly. So it'll be interesting to see. And of course, Elon pushed it again on the call that, hey, we're open to anybody. As long as you're wanting to work with us, we have no problem in selling what we've done and are doing. And, it certainly makes sense on the Tesla side because they have dedicated a lot of time and material and employee programming time to this and continue to do so. It's probably one of the larger expenditures on the balance sheet that they have as they push this towards a level 4, level 5. So they would definitely want to recoup some of that if they could with another automaker chipping in and pay for these expenses that they're incurring and have incurred in the past.
Yes.
Well, the other thing to look at there is they were already set up as a first party supplier from the Roadster days, and so this isn't unfamiliar territory for them. And then you got a little bit of the naysayer saying, "Oh well, Elon said this before," but if you go back and listen to what he said last time, was they were looking at the possibility of doing this, and now they're actually talking to a potential customer on this, which is two similar sounding but completely different concepts.
Yeah. I'm not sure. When do you think someone, say it were Ford? I don't think it's still beta, so I think it's going to have to be after version 12.
Yeah.
And then there's going to, anytime they put a new vehicle in, the camera positions are going to be slightly different. There's other considerations, so it's going to have to go through a major training cycle with that.
But they've already got vehicles with cameras in different positions. You've got the Model X, the Model 3. Those are similar, but very large in feet differences. And then you've got the semi-truck, which is completely different.
Totally different. Yeah.
And then you've got Optimus, which is 100% different.
Yes, yeah. So, and every one of those differences matters for training. You're going to have to do... Okay. When you get to some perspective, you can do virtual cameras and create the vector environment, and then all the planning and stuff can be the same after that. But it's getting to that first step that it's you want to try to get the camera position as similar to an existing car as possible, so you minimize that step, which may or may not, depending on what vehicle this new manufacturer is going to be using, may or may not be possible to get them super close.
The other thing to keep in mind is that manufacturer is going to have to adhere to Tesla standards when it comes to the internal computing power of the car. So I think some of them are going to be, they're going to be definitely underpowered with what they have in their vehicles today. Because
I think they're just going to drop in the FSD board, because like right
now it would have to be
with the MCU turned off.
Tesla's inference engine. There's no way it could be anything else.
It's highly. They probably also have to use Tesla's cameras, because they would probably also try and cheap out on the cameras, and like it might just have the wrong aspect ratio or the wrong color space.
So this may be something where Tesla mandates you use this package of hardware, and that's it. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, you can't use a cheaper interconnect that can't keep up with the bandwidth. There's going to be a huge list of things from cameras to interconnect to compute that Tesla's going to say it has to be this
to cellular connection. Because of course that drives the whole system as well.
For updates,
the communication. Yeah.
Well, maybe not for that, because remember Elon's goal is for it to be able to drive coast to coast without GPS and without.
Oh come on! The car updates itself constantly. You think that's going to go away?
Right, but it's not real time while driving.
Right.
But there does have to be a connected car. Absolutely, will require that.
Yeah. So that means on GM you got to buy the OnStar. So Derek's asking, was that Derek? No, Kenny's asking, do we think that that Ford will offer it for $15,000 for FSD, or what if they offer it for $7,500? So I would say that one of two things is likely to happen with this is, hey, this thing gets out of beta and everybody feels it is priced correctly, or B, they pass it directly onto the customer. So you may not write a check to Tesla, but when you hit it, Ford will move that payment over from Ford to Tesla for you. Or in the case of the discount, then I imagine that Ford is then eating between the wholesale cost and what they just charged you versus what Tesla's actually charging.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know how that license. Yeah, we just talked about how there's too many lawyers. So there's going to be a lot of lawyers involved in this deal.
Sure.
It also could be that they mandated that it's a monthly fee.
They could. Yeah, it might have to be just the monthly. And then the other question then is, since it's out of beta at that point, are they calling it level 3 or whatever Mercedes and Honda are pretending that they've actually got, which is really just a sit in traffic for you minder? In that case, would Tesla be liable, or would the customer be liable, the OEM customer, not the end customer?
Right. Yeah. If it's driving for you, it should be under that system's liability. And even if it's in a Ford vehicle, if it's Tesla system, Tesla insurance should be covering you at that time. Interesting. Yeah.
Unless they call it level 2.
Right. And if they continue to call it level 2, I don't think that other OEMs would be as interested in it.
No, they'll stick with Blue Cruise, right? Why bother moving? That's what they have currently. So it's there's a number of things, balls in motion here. So, but I agree that I think Tesla's going to have to be further down the road with the actual implementation of level 4 or 5 before anyone buys into this, especially making some sort of splash that they've done it. There's going to have to be some proof on the table that Tesla does have this problem licked, and that it is rolling out with drivers across North America.
The other consideration here is, what is Mobileye doing? Mobileye and Qualcomm. You've got, are you buying their hardware package? Are you buying their software package? How is that charging? And how does Tesla compare to those two? And if they just match everything up and they're just the cheapest price, or the similar price but the best performance, or the least friction to deal with, because remember that Mr. Farley was talking about how they have 150 software packages to write to, versus what they started to do is copy Tesla and do single stack as much as possible.
That's the free market, though. Everyone's going to have a different flavor. They're going to call it something different. It's going to have different abilities. They're going to say it's going to be up to the consumer to weed through that and indicate what's an apples to apples comparison, so I can judge the price.
From a manufacturer's perspective, if I have all these terms and then I have to have 8 different software engineers full time to implement the Mobileye package, I only need 2 engineers to implement Tesla's package, and they give me a nice, easy to write to interface that I can then do my updates on my own without having to ask Tesla for every update.
But again, that's the same thing as a consumer. It's just on a manufacturer level. They're going to have to weigh the pros and cons of every package to determine what's the best fit for their company. And it's going to be up to them to make a judgment call at some point. And of course, it could be after that CEO is gone, they switch later. So it's not like that doesn't happen every day in corporate America.
GM and Apple CarPlay and Android, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. So very good. So we will see as time goes along here if more is mentioned on this or if more is possibly leaked. We know that Tesla doesn't leak all that much, but it seems that the other companies do. So
okay, compared to them, yeah.
So we will see. We will see. Next, in the earnings call, it was brought up a couple times about the Dojo supercomputer. So Tesla talked about how they have progressed with it, and that they're getting better, getting ready to implement multiple stacks of this. And of course, this is all built for video training, virtual video training of the FSD system as time goes along. So they are getting to a point where they're trying to be better than a human driver, and then they're going to they want to get to a point where they're 2 times better, 5 times, 10 times, 20 times, and then it's just going to keep going. And of course the Dojo is going to allow them to multiply that factor, because they're not going to need as much. The thought is they're not going to need as much human eyes on the scenarios. If the computer can generate it faster, then they can bring it in from the actual field and have people work with it and manipulate it to see issues and program for it. So that's what Dojo is all about. And they definitely mentioned a bit of an eye-watering figure when they said, how much do you expect to spend on Dojo going forward? And Elon quickly said, with not much pause, we're definitely going to be north of $1 billion in the next few years. So that was interesting, that they're making their own silicon, special computers to manage video software and updates. And of course, they found out, like they do with a lot of parts that Tesla wants, is you can't buy this stuff off the shelf that's going to be optimized to the job you want to give it. So they, in turn, like the actuators for Optimus, is they're making it themselves, is what it boils down to. And Dojo is one of those big projects that they have mapped out for themselves to speed the process if they have custom-built hardware for the tasks they needed to do.
Yeah, and he didn't back off of their idea of AWSing it either. Although one of the questions was, like, how about using it for something like ChatGPT or BingBot or whatever? And he said it's not really good at that, because it's made for processing large amounts of video, not predicting the next word in a large language model.
And this is another point that he made during the call, was that that's why you out there, you other manufacturers of automobiles, it's not just putting cameras in your car and putting a chip in the car. It's having this back end that you can actually program it and update it and make it better over time that you need as well. It's another cost for others to think about on the sidelines, as they have multi-billion-dollar programs that they're wondering, do we go any further? Because we're not getting the results we need. And we know that in order to get to where Tesla is possibly going to be shortly, we're going to need a different type of architecture for our computer and our training.
Right, and then he also let it slip in there, with the he mentioned that they were a preferred customer of NVIDIA, like they get first snatch at these AI cards, and they only do that if you're going to give them a consistent income and consistent revenue. And on top of that, if you have reached that status, that means you're buying a lot of GPUs, which means that even before Dojo, that they were already steps ahead of anybody who's getting started today.
Absolutely.
And these aren't cheap cars. They're like $6,000 for the base model each.
Right, and it's only because they think they're going to get a massive return on investment for solving full self-driving that they can afford to spend north of $1 billion on top of the billion they've already spent, I'm sure. Yeah, and then doing their own custom chips, that's not cheap. They're in a nice sweet spot, though, where they can afford to make really expensive Dojo compute units, because they're not doing mass production. They're doing them for their own use, so it's hundreds or thousands, not millions. And but it's also high enough volume to justify the cost it takes to do the mask and work with TSMC or Samsung, whoever they're working with to make those. So they're in that sweet spot where they can pull out all the stops. Use custom heat sinks, liquid cooling, all kinds of fancy things that you would normally not do for high volume. They can do that.
Yeah.
Which is another reason why this large OEM is probably talking with them. It's like, man, we could save $1 billion. Just buy it from them when they finish it.
Yeah, and in fact, they probably don't have to do the AWS Dojo as a service stuff if they're able to license the result to other OEMs.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. They can sell access to the model even if they don't buy FSD.
Right. Or just now we have to start training your cars, and now we've sold it to someone else. Now we have to start training for their cars. So Dojo will be fully employed with all the stuff that Tesla and the customers of Tesla has planned, where Why would they? If they have no excess capacity, they're not going to be selling any excess capacity.
Exactly. Yeah, there's nothing to sell. They're using it all the time, or in a certain routine.
Yeah, and then there's also the savings in sensors. If you really believe Elon on the cameras only, you could save thousands on lidars and radars and extra cameras, and your car can not have this like unicorn horn on the front, and then like these cancer warts all over the sides. You got a style for it,
but you're gonna pay for it. Trust me, you'll pay for it another way. But another area of interest is that Model 3 and Model Y continue to receive discounts in North America, or Canada and the US at least. So again, models that are in inventory are continued to getting discounts. So it seems that Tesla is trying to burn through whatever inventory is left over from production and keeping levels close to zero. Probably because Project Highland is coming for the Model 3 shortly. And of course, the Model 3 discounts are much greater than what the Model Y discounts are. So Tesla is definitely trying to keep whatever is in storage for a short period of time to keep them moving, keep production going. As we talked about earlier in the show, they want to produce as many units as possible. And of course, they don't want a lot of them mothballed and waiting for sale. Better to put a bit of a discount on it and roll it out, especially with some people sitting on the sidelines looking at Highland going, do I wait or do I pull the trigger? If you offer a nice little discount, a lot of them move and say, you know what, I'll take the old model. It's good enough for me.
I'm wondering if the reason Highland is taking so long, like it looks like it should have already been done, is if they're just letting Juniper catch up and just release them both kind of back to back so they don't have an Osborne effect. Because the Model 3 is the older one, but the Model Y is, world's best-selling car by a single model.
So, remind me, what's Juniper again?
Juniper is Highland for the Model Y.
Is that the existing Model Y or a new Model Y coming soon? I know what Highland
is. It's the same concept as Highland is for Model 3. It's Juniper is
Juniper is for the Model Y.
And that's happening in Q4 or when?
We don't know. We haven't seen any
or anything. You got to believe that it's further out than. I would have to think it's further up than Highland.
Okay. The other thing to remember about that, though, is with Model Y sharing 71% of its parts with Model 3, you could test Juniper on a Model 3 as a mule, and nobody would be the wiser.
Right.
True.
Especially if it's already similar to Highland. Okay. So, yeah, interesting. So, Model Y already has hardware 4, right?
Right.
And that's one of the things that's getting updated in Model 3 with this update. So
we believe,
probably.
Yeah. So it's interesting. There's they're sort of leapfrogging each other in certain ways.
Yeah.
And we did hear about those early Model Ys that were released after 4 started to show up. It was just parts of 4's hardware were in the Model Y. So there weren't, there was missing camera connections. It was there was differences in the chip design a little bit because they're thinking there might be a transition that they're getting in between and then pushing all of Model 4 over to it. Or is it really required to have the same type of RAM that's in a X or an S in the Y because it's not pushed on intensely as much as it is in the signature cars?
But on the S and X, it was getting ECC RAM, which is error correcting. It can detect that stuff. And on the Y, it was just RAM, just regular old cheap RAM.
And that also could be a evolutionary move because they start noticing in the X and the S that we don't need the error correcting RAM because it's never used. Those could be cost savings based on their experience with those cars as they've rolled out and they've now got miles on them. And of course, Tesla, the mothership, is watching what goes on with those vehicles, and maybe they're making changes too. So we really don't know. It's kind of up in the air.
If the RAM is duplicated, like if each chip has its own RAM, I think it does. You could kind of use that as a pseudo ECC. Like if we already knew
if
that
they're duplicating it, but if they're using it for different purposes, then you don't have any redundancy. And if you only have 2, you don't have a minority report. If they disagree, you don't know which one was wrong unless you have something like an ECC code. And so then you don't,
We'll see what they do.
We shall see. We shall see. Next, Model Y shatters another record, this time half-year sales in Europe. So again, as Casey mentioned earlier, the Model Y is the best-selling model of any car in a number of different districts across the world. And this, again, is just another piece of that, letting us see that up to half-year point of 2023, Model Y leads all in Europe. So as we've said before, we're thinking that this is the year that Model Y could be the number one selling car across the world when it rolls into the 12 months. So there's definitely more of this probably to come as we see other locations and countries and territories being claimed by the Model Y. It's just a runaway hit, and it continues to be so.
Yeah. On a related note, I didn't see this article in our list. Model 3 and Y have taken over California. That's the best-selling cars in California now. So it's no longer Toyota.
Right, yep. And California is a huge market. If California were a country, I think their vehicle sales would rank 5th. Yeah, it's huge. To have California means you're going to have the U.S. Even if there are parts that of the country that won't ever touch that vehicle, you're still going to be pretty high on the list for the whole country.
Exactly. And speaking of parts, there was a report just this week that Magic Dock parts were spotted, get this, in South Korea. So at a supercharger in South Korea, a Magic Dock station went into effect. So
come on, hey, try it out.
And we haven't heard anything more about the Magic Docks since the 11 were installed, mostly in New York and a few in California. So this is the next one to be noticed out there. And interesting that South Korea was the pick, and that Tesla has maybe because NACS has been so successful, Tesla's kind of rethinking about their strategy of the Magic Dock, thinking, you know what? In a year and a half, we're probably not going to need it anymore.
Yep.
Because there's going to be so many people that are switching over to the NACS plug. There's just not that as much. I guess what's going to really come down to the brass tacks is whether or not the deal with the Biden administration has a certain time limit in it, that they have to have something up and running, or a certain percentage or a certain number. There is a number involved, I'm sure. But the timing of when that has to be active may be something that Tesla will have to adhere to or not. Depends.
The one thing that I rarely hear brought up with the whole IRA situation is that they have an uptime requirement. So they're not just throwing money out there to drop a bunch of stations to fall into disrepair. And
about time. This has been sorely needed in our infrastructure.
Yeah, and so far Tesla's the only charging network that meets the uptime requirement, is my understanding. So on the DC level, you might have somewhere that meet it on the AC level.
Well, Flow here in Canada meets it. It's a 99.9% uptime, but It only charges up to 50 kilowatt hours. So it's not it's not the 150. Now they are installing 150s, but right now mostly it's 50s.
Yeah, I think that was another part, was they had to have the 150, right? So
yeah,
there's only one network that counts right now.
That's true. Next story, we've talked about this before with other locations. Orange County, New York has signed a deal for a warehouse distribution center just under 1 million square feet with Tesla. And this, of course, we've talked about this in St. Louis. We've talked about this in California, and we've talked about it in some other locations. This is just the next in a long line of distribution centers that Tesla is strategically picking in different regions of the country to supply parts to their customers. So, and of course to their actual service centers as well. So this is as Tesla starts getting larger and larger, and their fleet is growing, they're having vehicles come in for service and need parts and need upgrades. Patrick and my cars are now 5 years old. The Model 3 is becoming an older car, and parts like rear knuckles and control arms, all those things are going to eventually fade on all the cars, let alone Of course, older cars, the X's and S's that are still out there, they're still being sold as used cars and others. So it makes sense that they've got to pick up on their distribution centers to supply the fleet that's continually growing. We're talking about almost 2 million cars added to the fleet this year. That's a phenomenal rate of growth, and they're going to need the logistics and parts distribution to match that.
Yeah.
Right on.
Next story. Yes, we talked about this starting a while ago. The 68 Megapack system at Giga Texas has now been completed. So it is now up and running and supplying a capacity of 136 megawatts to the Gigafactory. So Tesla, of course, knowing what Texas ERCOT, something like that.
You got it. Yep.
Knowing the reliability of the Texas electric system and not wanting to put its production in jeopardy for a possible loss of power, have decided that they're going to supplement the power grid with their own power, collect it, and of course probably use AutoBidder to buy and sell power as they so need it. Have got it now complete, and now
or at least buffer themselves from some of that
allows that plant
kilowatt
to be buffered from the Texas system, whether it's reliable or not. They now have an insurance or a safety net at their control.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool, and I definitely think it's needed in Texas. If you want to have uptime, you have to have battery backup because their grid does have issues in a lot of the state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now here's a kind of a cool story. Casey, can you pull up this photo for me? This, of course, is the F-150 CyberTruck that we saw show up recently.
That's a contradiction of terms right there.
I know, it's crazy. But this was something that was kind of a surprise that showed up on the interwebs, where we've got a Cybertruck, obviously, but it's been wrapped to look like a Ford F-150. And if you look at it closely, you can see it. It looks like it's got the molding and the door handles on the side. Now, of course, the size is a little bit different, and of course, the volt looks a little bit different when it comes to the top part. But this is kind of interesting that Tesla is actually testing with this wrap on it. And I'm not sure why they actually use the wrap. Is it a joke just inside the shop, or is this some sort of measurement tool that they're looking at how our truck compares to the four-door Ford F-150 Lightning, or not a Lightning, just
the Mars truck back here? It might be the sense of humor of the team.
Yeah. There is a Mars truck mural on the back wall. Another thing of interest is that. Is it just me, or does that front look a little bit short? I know they shortened the front. They certainly trumpeted that this vehicle can now fit in a 19-foot garage. So they did chop a little bit off the front. The front is going to be smaller. It appears that it's not quite as large. So as the older version, but again, I think erring on getting it under that 19 feet is probably a win for them anyways, because having an extra large truck, I think they would rather have a smaller frunk and a 6.5 or 6 plus 6 foot bed as opposed to having a longer frunk.
Especially with the vault cover, especially if it's like every other Tesla every other Tesla without a nose cone, where you can actually manually open the front trunk if you want.
Talk about altering the look of it, though. Like, just with this wrap, you can see the 3D on it. It looks like a completely different truck from the outside.
It does. The funny thing is going to be if those wrap door handles. Those are not the real handles. That's just the wrap. But
how many times would you bang your hand off the side as you tried to grab that?
Yes. And people have enough problems with the Model 3 and the Y already.
Yeah. Putting fake handles on it would really blow people's minds. Just get in the back. Yeah, use the handle. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think you called it though, Mark. If they said, "Hey, we're really close to being able to get to 19 feet, and that will allow us to fit into most garages." So, well, where are you going to get the space? You got to take it from somewhere. You don't want the bed. You want to have at least a 6-foot bed so you can fit in those sheets of plywood and whatever. So you can't take it from that. You start taking it, well, maybe in the cabin, but then you're restricting people's space for comfort and to have all the seats and everything. So you can't take it from there. What's left? The frunk. The frunk's got the one they had to give. And if you've already got the vault or the bed, you've got lots of storage space. So I think that's the right call.
Yeah. So
I agree.
Can't wait to see this thing live. It's coming. I'm hoping it'll be September. We will see. But and it's not just me. Like I said, another 1.9 million people are anxiously waiting as well. Last story. Last story for the evening is that just yesterday there were some aerial shots of Fremont, and it showed that the parking blacktop, the lot where new cars flow into, had reduced significantly from what it's normal. Obviously, Fremont's producing thousands of cars a day. And of course, this lot where you would pair up your orders, push them out to transports or onto rail and such, it's definitely empty, or a lot more empty than it usually is. So the speculation again is that Elon talked about in the earnings call that all the plants were going to have some downtime as they update machinery and processes. And we think, of course, that part of this may be the Highland transition for the Model 3. But it's looking like something is going on at Fremont now. The others had not reported any change. It was just Fremont that was photographed with this change. So again, nothing specific on this, but there are some signs that changes are afoot.
Yeah, but you definitely don't want to do this at all the plants at the same time, because if you find something wrong in the first plant, you don't want all the plants to find the same thing.
Yeah.
And two, you can use your worldwide presence. You got Berlin and China both servicing that area. You've got Fremont and Texas servicing this area. It's smart to.
Yeah, I would hope that Tesla learned something from their Model S and Model Y refresh debacle, where they stopped production of the cars for over a year as they ran into problem after problem of implementing the new version. So hopefully they've learned on that.
It's like they had reported sales every quarter. It's like, where did they come from?
Yeah, it's like they had ones hiding in the bushes behind the plant or something. They just kept bringing them out.
We wanted you off the list.
In shipping containers somewhere.
Exactly. They're getting it from that Chinese shipper again. Exactly. Well, with that, guys, let's wrap her up for the evening. If you haven't already, please give us that thumbs up now on the video. Press that subscribe. That helps us out. Really appreciate it. And we thank you, of course, for joining us this evening. Casey, what do you got going on? You had your first members only video call. What's happening now?
So next time you guys see me on air, have completed a revolution around the sun, and then we'll be doing our Sunday chat. And then probably, I don't know if I think I want to do like every 2 weeks, do the members chats, and then and we'll kind of play it by ear, feel what you guys want to do with that. I think it's a blast.
Excellent.
Over at youtube.com at Casey Green. The @GCustom is my Twitter.
Very good. Patrick, anything to share with the group before we go?
Yeah, I want to give a special shout out to Kenny, JT, and Derek for being so active in the chat. Thanks a lot. It's really great to see you there and bringing up some good points. In about 2 weeks, my Tesla Solar will be reinstalled. Yeah, 2 weeks. So not
Tesla
next
week.
week's show, but yeah, hopefully the one after that. So we have 4 kilowatts. We have 8 more being added in 2 weeks. So it'll be nice to have all that back and be fully going again. So I'll do my normal shout outs. I blog occasionally at carswithcords.net, where I write about a future free from fossil fuels. Yeah. And I'm with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at oeva.org. Thanks a lot.
Very good. And Derek's asking how he gets his driving video for us to see. Derek, why don't you set up a YouTube account, load it up to that, and just send us a private link or make it public. Your choice. And
right. Yeah. When you put a video on YouTube, you can make it unlisted. And then the only people that get to see it are the ones you share the link with. If you want to do it that way.
It's cheap and effective, and it works. So that's our suggestion. Well, with that, I want to thank everyone for joining us, and we will catch up next Wednesday and see what's happening in the Tesla life.
Stay positive, test negative.
Indeed. Thank you, Lee Moon.
Have a great week.
Bye, everybody.